Submerged within the prophetic declarations of the Hebrew prophet Ezekiel is one of the Bible's strangest and most eerie prophetic declarations to be found in the Scriptures. Ezekiel is told to prophesy to Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and tell him that he and his soldiers are soon to be in the land of the dead. Egypt will be overrun by the hordes of Babylon, and great numbers will die. In Ezekiel 32, we read, "The word of the Lord came to me, saying, Son of man, wail over the multitude of Egypt, and cast them down to the depths of the earth, her and the daughters of the famous nations, with those who go down to the pit. Whom do you surpass in beauty? Go down, be placed with the uncircumcised." Over the rest of this unusual chapter, we find several of these themes repeated. The Egyptians will be killed and will go down to the depths, also known as the pit. Upon their death, they will not simply lie on the ground, they will go down, and where will they go? God says they'll go down to the pit. This is the place of the dead, also called Sheol in the Old Testament. God is telling the Egyptians that they are on a one-way course to the pit, a place of darkness and confinement. Another theme that God will repeat in this chapter is the idea of going down to the pit uncircumcised. He says to Egypt, "Go down, be placed with the uncircumcised." So we see another feature of this pit. It is the resting place not merely for the dead, but for the uncircumcised dead. This refers to those who are not a part of God's covenant people. The seal of a male who belonged to the God of Israel was circumcision. Any male not circumcised had no relationship with God. It was God's strict rule that all his male children be circumcised on the 8th day after birth. Or if they were converts to Judaism, they were to be circumcised as adults, as evidence of being partakers of the covenant blessings God had established between himself and the descendants of Abraham. So when God declares that the Egyptians will be killed and will go down to the pit and be confined there with all the other uncircumcised, he is essentially saying that these soldiers will be in a hopeless condition. They will die without God and without hope. Other uncircumcised men will be there. God tells Ezekiel, Assyria is there, and all her company, with their graves all around her. All of them slain, fallen by the sword. Her graves are set in the recesses of the pit, and her company is all around her grave, all of them slain, fallen by the sword, who caused terror in the land of the living. These men, these tough, fearful soldiers, caused terror in the land of the living, a term that will be repeated twice more in this chapter. They created misery, death, and ruin for their enemies, but now they themselves were slain, and they died in the worst possible way, going down uncircumcised into the pit. God goes on to say, there is Elam and all her multitude, who have gone down uncircumcised to the lower parts of the earth, who caused their terror in the land of the living. Now they bear their shame with those who go down to the pit. Like the Egyptians, these fearless, hardened soldiers had caused terror in the land of the living, but now they went in shame down into the pit, uncircumcised and without hope, where they would experience darkness, confinement, and misery. The truths and the concepts of the law and the prophets are symbolic of greater and more eternal truths and concepts that are enlightened for us by the words of Jesus and the writings of the apostles. And a special word that needs to be translated into a New Testament understanding is the word uncircumcised. In the Jewish mind, to be uncircumcised was to be outside the covenant of God. It was a derogatory term that meant that such a person had nothing to do with God, and God had nothing to do with him. But even in the writings of the prophets, the Holy Spirit made it clear that true circumcision was not a physical act, but rather a transformation of the heart. Jeremiah declared, all the house of Israel are uncircumcised in the heart. And Paul makes it crystal clear that it is a circumcised heart, not a circumcision in the flesh, that God desires, writing this, for he's not a Jew who is one outwardly, nor is circumcision that which is outward in the flesh. But he is a Jew who is one inwardly, and circumcision is that of the heart. It is Jesus who gives us this circumcision of the heart. Through Jesus, God gives us a new spirit and a tender heart. He puts His Spirit in us, who moves us to walk in His ways and keep His divine laws. As a result of this, we are granted adoption into the family of God. And when we die, we don't go down into Sheol uncircumcised of heart. Rather, we go up into heaven to be with Jesus, having transformed hearts made alive and tender by the Holy Spirit living within us. Through Ezekiel, God had declared that these tough soldiers who had caused terror in the land of the living would be plunged into misery. And likewise, today there are many who are impressive in various ways. Perhaps they're celebrities, beautiful, sophisticated, witty, and articulate, and while in the land of the living, they are the envy of all, and multitudes seek to know them, or have a picture taken with them, or have their autograph and keep it in their homes. But upon their death, if they are without Christ and uncircumcised in the heart, they too will go down to the place of the dead, where they will wait in darkness and silence until their time comes to stand before Christ and be judged, after which they will go to that place of everlasting destruction. On the other hand, there will be multitudes of Christians who, in appearance, were not particularly impressive. They caused no terror in the land of the living, nor did they impress very many as they went about living their lives honestly, responsibly, compassionately, and without any special fame, noticed by few. But upon their death they will go up and not down, with hearts circumcised by Christ. And they will be welcomed into heaven with Jesus' wonderful words, "Well done, good and faithful servant. You've been faithful over a few things. I will make you ruler over many things."